So once again, welcome everyone. You all know me. I'm Amita Jain, and I have been practicing Ayurvedic medicine for over 20 years now. And just a couple of years ago, I decided to give up my full-time job as Vice President of Classic Homes to open a nonprofit and charity doing Ayurvedic holistic medicine full-time for chronically ill people, because I saw how effectively it works. And people tend to think when they hear of Ayurveda, they think of massages, or they think of vomiting, or some extreme therapy or massages. But Ayurveda is heavily based in diet and foods. And when I saw how diet could affect people's health so much, I just thought it would be a disservice if I didn't leave what I'm doing and help people with this knowledge. So when I was invited here to give a talk and Sudiksha ji said, pick a topic, I thought that the most important thing would be to educate you all on proper diet. So first, I want to start off on questions. So you all might have had questions like this. How come I see people who are, some women who are just so thin even after they have 4 kids, and you see them eating all these samosas and they're still skinny, and you just get near the samosa and you gain 2 pounds. Or you say, I'm bloated, I'm gassy all the time, I have tried all the Western diets, nothing's helping me. There's a big confusion on all these diets out there for losing weight, and you think to yourself, I have tried Atkins, I have tried South Beach, now there's paleo, and there's keto something, right? Keto. And for many of us, it's high protein, no carb, which is completely against what, contradicting what we grew up with. And for those of us who are vegetarians, how do we go on such diets? Then there's a raw food diet and vegan diet. So it's very confusing. And what I hope to do in this seminar is to clarify a lot of this by telling you the basics of food and how food affects us. And to start, I want to address, how does Ayurveda define health? Health is not merely the absence of disease. So in the West, if you don't have a disease, you're healthy. But in Ayurveda, and what you're going to learn today, is that disease starts well before any symptoms manifest. So health is a state of balance and harmony among the body, the mind, and consciousness. So Ayurveda takes all of these 3 things into account. If you have healthy body but ill mind, your body is creating disease. If your body is not healthy, your mind will soon pick up on that. So some differences before we start getting into what Ayurveda is how does the West look at health and how does the East look at health? And some of this might be familiar to you. Apples and carrots are good for everyone. Hands down, in the West you will hear this, that certain foods are healthy, therefore they're healthy for everybody. But Ayurveda says no, different foods suit different people. Get rid of symptoms and you're no longer ill. So have you ever gone to the doctor or just felt that something's not right in your body, but the doctor says, well, all your lab reports are fine, you're healthy, go home, take more rest, you need more sleep, or you need to exercise, that's it. But you know intuitively something's not feeling right. So Ayurveda says we don't suppress our symptoms, we monitor them. Symptoms are a clear sign for us that something needs to be changed. In the West, everyone is the same. We're all made of organs and tissues and cells, and therefore we are biochemically the same people. But Ayurveda says no 2 people are identical. Though we are all made up of the 5 elements, no 2 people are the same. The root cause, we all know this, right? If you have a headache, 3 people go to the doctor with a headache, the same medicine is given to all 3 people. But the root cause is never determined, and the root cause of these can be entirely different for all three people. So we address the root cause and we remove it. Treat the disease, not the person. That's in the West, but in the East, we don't treat the disease. I treat the person first. So now you can take your food quiz, and you will see here two columns of a list of foods, items, and in the first column you must write how healthy that food is for you. On a scale of 1 to 5, in your opinion, how healthy is that for you? Very healthy gets a 5. Okay? This is not a trick question. These are not tricks, just for you to see how your mind thinks about these foods. So I'll give you a couple minutes to take the quiz. And then in the second column, how often do you eat that food? 5 meaning very often or every day. And when you're done, you can put the paper down and your pencil down. We'll be coming back to this at the end. Good. Okay. We're all made up of the 5 universal elements, right? We all know what those are. There's Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi. Now, some of us are more dominant in these elements than others. And this is defined by 3 sources of subtle energies that we all have. Okay? And they are known as Vat or Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. All of us have these energies, okay, but they are in different proportions in each of us. So as I said, all of us have the 5 elements, but in some of us, fire may be more, earth may be more, air may be more. So you can see here on this chart that the first energy, Vata, is made up of ether and air. Then there's Pitta, made up of fire and water. And then there's Kapha, made up of the earth element, strongly in the earth element, and water. Now, doshas are energies that together perform all the physiological activity within not just the body, but also within the mind. Okay. So first of all, let's see what Vata does. Vata governs all movement and communication. So the movement of blood through our arteries and veins, the movement of air through the lungs, the movement of thoughts and emotions in our mind, our imagination moving, dream state, all of that is governed by the energy of Vata. Pitta oversees all transformation and metabolism. So when we eat, it metabolizes our food, it governs the digestive process, and in conversion of food into nutrients, cellular exchange, all of this is done by the Pitta dosha. And then there's Kapha. And Kapha forms all structure, cohesiveness, and lubrication. All growth is governed by this dosha. So now we're going to look at what each of us is, okay? Whether we are strongly Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, because the rest of this seminar is going to be geared upon you specifically and what foods are well tolerated by you and what foods will actually aggravate your dosha. So in order for the seminar to make sense, you need to know where you fit. So, all of us now, please stand. And we've got 3 sections here, okay? Left there is Vata, in the middle is Pitta, and the third is Kapha. And what I'm going to do is call out certain attributes, characteristics, qualities of each. And you decide which one applies to you most, and you walk over towards that section. Okay? Now, let's say you move to Vata, and then on the next quality, you find that you have to move. Just keep moving. What will happen is by the end, you will fit somewhere for most of the qualities. You will dominantly be in most. And for some of you, you may be in between. So that's why I've kept a couple of chairs in between the three sections. Okay, everybody ready to play? All right. I'm going to say 3 characteristics. You pick the one that suits you most and go to that section. Vata, a slender person who doesn't gain weight easily. Now, through most of your lifetime, okay? Don't count illness, trauma, or accidents. Slender person doesn't gain weight easily is Vata. Medium build with natural muscle tone. Pitta, a large build who easily gains weight. Kapha. Moving along. Skin. Dry skin, thin skin, sometimes cracking. Vata. Skin gets flushed. You feel warmth in your face. You have moles or freckles on your skin. Pitta. Skin is thick, smooth, soft, and can sometimes look pale. Kapha. Hair. Dry, coarse, brittle, lacks luster. Vata. Fine hair, normal hair, tends to gray, early balding, receding hairline. Pitta. Thick, full, wavy hair tends to be oily. Vata. Kapha. Emotions. Restless, worries a lot. Vata. Gets irritable, prone to anger. Pitta. Doesn't get ruffled very easily. Kapha. Good. Now, if you're in the middle of V and K, then you're going to be somewhere here. Weather preference. You love tropical weather. Your idea of a vacation is on a beach in the sun, humid and hot. Vata. You don't like hot weather at all. You'd rather be doing something. The idea of sitting on a beach and relaxing actually makes you uneasy. You want to be hiking. You want to be doing something active. You want to be in the mountains. Pitta. Kapha people, they like warm weather as long as it's not damp or rainy. They're easygoing about where to go. You tell me where to go, I'll go. If you don't sweat very much at all, even growing up, Vata. You sweat all the time. Pitta. You sweat normal. Kapha. Pitta people will sweat even when they're not exercising. Okay. Stamina. So Vata people get stamina in bursts. They'll get super active and then they'll come home and go, oh my God, I have no energy. I can't move. That's a Vata person. Pitta people have good stamina and they like to push themselves to the limit. Okay. Kapha people have the most stamina, but they don't use it very much. Okay, wait, all of you started over here, now you're all in the middle. Health problems. If you tend to have joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, Vata, you tend to have skin issues, Pitta, you tend to have congestion and colds, upper head related, you are Kapha. What describes you the most of the three? creative, talented, vibrant, imaginative, Vata. Intelligent, strategic, persistent, and loves a challenge, Pitta. Loyal, reliable, dependable, I saw that. Kapha. Please move to what describes you, not what you want to be. What really describes your innate nature? Which of the three describes you? You enjoy solitude or single, long-lasting, deep relationships, Vata. You like a lot of people. You love to work with people. You like to socialize, be the center of attention, Pitta. Easygoing, fits anywhere, not too choosy, Kapha. Okay, if anybody is confused about their dominant dosha, let me know. Okay, otherwise, take a seat where you are. Okay, Vatas, if you found that most of what described you is Vata, have a seat here. If you're in between, you have about equal here, then you take a middle seat. Same for the other two. And remember, Vata and Kapha is going to be over here on the side. So grab a couple of the chairs and put them over here or on this side here. Yes, yes. Deepa's question was if you answered more than one. Nobody's going to be all in one section. But the one where you had the most is where you're going to sit. Yes, yes. Yes. So you want to pick what you were most of your life. Growing up. Most of your life growing up. Okay. This is about right. You know, this is what I usually get in the seminars. Heavy Vata and Vata Pitta. Yeah. For our our culture is generally heavy in Vata and Vata Pitta, and Kapha too. Okay. Ethnic, yeah. Like Pittas are a lot more in the Caucasian community, but Indians also, especially from the north, you get a lot more in this middle section. So as I mentioned, where you are right now is a combination. All of us are some combination of these three doshas, okay? That's why nobody is going to be perfectly in one. Most people are what we call dual doshic, means they have two dominant doshas. That's why you have a lot of people in the middle of Vata and Pitta. Occasionally, and not very rare, but occasionally you'll have a single dominant dosha. And there's also sometimes three doshic people, and those are the ones who have they were just born with parents who were Ayurvedic practitioners, and they knew how to balance their prakriti, and they gave birth that way, and the child also came out perfectly healthy and balanced. And those are the people with the strongest immune systems. Okay. Now, where you are sitting now, hopefully all of us here are healthy and somewhat balanced. This is your prakriti, your elemental nature, these qualities that I mentioned. Some of these cannot be changed, okay? If you were born with slim bones and fine hair, and you happen to love tropical weather, that's something that's going to be with you always. You cannot change your inherent nature. That's your prakriti. It's your natural state of equilibrium. Now, in life, the closer you can remain to your prakriti, or to balancing all three of these doshas, that equates to health and perfect health. Meena ji. Yes, that is correct. Two ways. Now, either you will pick up your parents' prakriti, or you will pick up their vikriti. And vikriti is their state of disease, means their state of imbalance. So if your mom was vata dominant, but when you were in the womb, she craved spicy foods all through her pregnancy, you may be born with pitta dominant. And you may also crave those same foods throughout your whole life. So it can be based on either one of those things. And what we're going to do today, and my job here, is to help you understand your dosha and how you can adjust your habits to keep yourself in balance. That's the whole purpose of this seminar. Because health, it's not a state, it's not a single state. It's a process. So our doshas are constantly changing all the time. And what we need to do is keep ourselves in balance through this change. And that's what we're going to learn here, specifically through diet. So let's first understand each of these doshas. But this mouse is sensitive. Okay, I'm trying to, here we are. Okay, so this is kind of a bar graph, and this is how I learned Ayurveda, is I had my professors give me graphs and charts to really understand what is this dosha. You know, is it like a pie chart where we each have only a certain amount and we can't go over? Is it a bar graph? And that's my engineering background. That's what's happening with these graphs. This is the way I finally understood it. Is in this person, they are kapha dominant with a subdosha of vata and least of pitta. So for them to keep their balance throughout life, they could stay somewhere close to this, or bring the kapha down a little bit and bring pitta up a little bit and keep the balance. Now, Ayurveda talks about many ways of balancing the doshas. Diet is just one of them. But today, that's what we're going to focus on. So let's get into the fun stuff now, starting with our vata group. But first, I want to know, was anybody very dominant in their group? Like, you know, that's where, okay, I want a kapha person to come on stage. One of you, a Sudiksha and Balaji, come on up. And who was my strong vata person here? Who raised their hand? Okay, Meeraji, yes, for sure. And I would like you to grab seats, actually, because you're going to be sitting up here for a while. So can I get 3 chairs up here? Yes. The dosha is a subtle energy on the level of pranamaya kosha. It's an energy that governs certain functions in the body. So for example, as I mentioned, the vata type dosha is an energy that governs all movement and transformation. You can be, yes. You can have excess and deficient. Yes.
So when you say the balance, so that's where, I mean, you need the...
Yes. Yes.
I think what I had a similar thought, that dosha in Sanskrit means something that's wrong.
No. This is not correct.
I understood when you define dosha, that's not what it is. It's the energy of something.
Yes. Yeah. It'll start to make sense. Okay.
Where do you want us?
Right up in the front.
Are we blocking the slides?
Okay. All the way up. Like this white tape. Perfect. Right here is good. Okay. So I have my vata person here, and my pitta and kapha. So, Meeraji, we're going to start with you. Now, these are attributes that describe our vata dominant people. Now, I want you to listen closely, because this could be, if it doesn't describe you, it could be someone in your family. And years later, you finally understand why that person is the way they are, why they have these tendencies, these likes and dislikes. Now you're going to see that their nature is defined by these doshas. So the one in bold, the word in bold, is the quality that's describing this dosha. Number one, remember that vata is what? What two elements are vata? Air and ether. Okay, so qualities of air and ether are one, dry. So vata people tend to have dry skin, dry hair, their lips could be dry, maybe their tongue, their colon is dry. So they tend to have, they have a tendency towards constipation when they're out of balance. They may even have a dry throat and a dry voice, okay, hoarse voice. They're light, air is light, so vata tend to be light in weight. They have light muscles and light bone structures, a thin body frame. Usually throughout childhood, a vata person will be underweight and very thin. Was that the case with you, Meera, when you were growing up?
Not, I was on the little bit on the plumper side. Not like overly, but yes, I got very sick when I was in my 20s with some amoebiosis or something, and that's when I lost all of that weight.
Okay, so you're probably a dual prakriti, probably dual dosha. A typical, any of you vatas? Very skinny growing up? And they're light sleepers, generally vata people. So light sleeper can be when you're out of balance. That's something that may get affected for a vata person, is their sleep. And the next thing is cold. Air is cold. So vata people will have a tendency towards cold hands, cold feet, poor circulation. They don't like the cold. Okay, that's hamsa. Yeah, they just don't like the cold. They tend towards stiffness because of the coldness in their body. And a lot of times that stiffness can be in the lower back. So vata people will tend to have trouble in the lower back area. Rough, cracked skin, rough nails. Their teeth, as they were growing up, they might have required braces to keep their teeth in line. They'll have rougher hands, okay, rough feet, and they'll have cracking joints. If anyone in your family has joints that you hear when they walk, it's a telltale sign of the vata dosha. When my kids were little and I would put them to sleep, I would tell my husband, don't walk for 30 minutes when they're sleeping, because he would crack, the joints would crack so loud when he would walk, the kids would know that he's near the room and they would call him. So you can always tell a vata person from their joints. Subtle. Vata people will have a tendency towards having anxiety, if not all the time, a subtle level of fear, anxiety, insecurities. And this may be manifested as subtle twitching, like eyes, sometimes people's eyes twitch for no reason, or there's twitching in the stomach, abdomen. This can also happen from vata dosha. Mobile. If you know anybody who talks fast and uses their hands a lot, they're very dramatic, this is a vata characteristic. They walk fast, they talk fast, they're always multitasking, doing something, their eyes move a lot, their hands move a lot, they're quick on their feet, they dream a lot, they just love moving about. A vata person has a tough time sitting still. And their moods change. So if you live with a vata person, every day you have to kind of wake up and see, how are you feeling today? And the vata person will also check with themselves, like, I was happy yesterday, I don't feel so good today. They change their mind. So if a vata person has to go get a haircut, she'll think she wants to get bangs, but when she gets there, she'll say, no, I don't want bangs. I want to dye my hair. No, I don't want to dye my hair. I want highlights. No, you know what? I think I'm going to go home and think about this. That's a vata person. Okay? If a vata is sitting on the sofa at home, relaxing in the evening, they'll have the TV on, they'll have a laptop here, they'll have their phone next to them, they'll have a drink and a snack. So they're doing all those things. If laundry is in front of them, they'll fold laundry during a commercial. This is a very typical characteristic of vata, constantly moving, like air and ether. But at the same time, vatas are also Clairvoyance. When they are spiritually elevated, Vata people have exceptional psychic abilities because their minds are already geared toward being able to see past just what's in front of them. They learn very quickly. They also forget very quickly. And in general, they're your artistic people. They're highly creative. They're very talented and have great creativity and imagination. So a lot of your people in the arts and creative arts are Vata dosha, strong in that dosha. Astringent is another quality of air and ether. Therefore, Vata people have a craving for sweets, salties, and sour foods. They don't really like very bitter foods that much. Oh. So how many of you in my Vata section would you say that qualities closely align with your nature? Raise your hands. Raise it closely. Most of them. Yeah, so say 80%. Okay, so that's your Prakriti. It's what you were growing up. But right now we're in a state of imbalance. That's why you have. Yes. Okay. So some of you, yes, Hamsa. So Meeraji, taking you as an example, you would say 80% describes you. Yeah. So 80% is a Vata dominant. She's Vata dominant. And she'll figure out what's her subdosha next. But the foods you're going to eat will be primarily Vata balancing foods. That's what you're aiming for.
One question I know growing up, I could see most of these fit what I am today, but I can also see myself in the past, and I know I was more maybe Kapha than Vata. Is that possible? Is it okay?
Yes. So what you were throughout most of your life is your Prakriti, is your dominant dosha. What you may have been, say, in the last few years or since you've had children, is a change in your dosha, which is actually in imbalance. Yeah. So we're trying to get you to be what you were.
Could be because of the spouse?
Because of your spouse? Yes, yes, absolutely right. You know, most of us are Vata nature because we grew up in hot climates, and our ancestry is from the hot climates, so this does not suit us very much. Now let's look at Pitta people. And remember the two elements of Pitta, do you remember? Fire and water, and primarily in that fire element. So what describes fire? Number one, hot. Hot. So Pitta people have heat in their stomachs, which means they have good digestion. They have that good, strong Agni. They have strong appetites. They'll have higher body temperature. They're the ones that in the meeting, they'll think it's too hot when everyone else has a sweater on. That's a Pitta person. They don't like the heat. They feel very uncomfortable in the heat. They'll generally have finer hair, early graying than most others. They may have tendency towards balding or receding hairlines, and they easily sunburn also. Then the next quality for Pitta is sharp. And the sunburn stays. Sharp, so they'll have sharp eyes, sharp nose, sharp features, sharp chin, maybe a heart-shaped face. Their memory is sharp. Their intellect is sharp. And their temper is also sharp. So a Pitta person might be described as hot-tempered. Okay. They are the ones who tend to be leaders and managers, CEOs, presidents, because of their intellect and sharpness. They need a challenge all the time in life, otherwise they get very bored. They need to be challenged. So fire is also light. So Pitta tends to have lighter skin, not always, but they may have freckles or spots on the skin, bright eyes, and they have a well-proportioned body frame. Vata people will be skinny and a little bit out of proportion, like their legs will be, disproportionate to their body. They may have some features that are strong, but a crooked nose, that's a Vata. But Pitta people will have very proportionate body frame. And we'll talk about Kapha. Oily skin, so oily fire mixed with the water element is going to bring a sense of oiliness. So where a Vata person can go 5 days without washing their hair, Pitta people next day will start to see oiliness in their scalp. Oily foods, they tend to aggravate a Pitta person. They'll definitely feel that in their digestion, and they could get headaches from it as well. So the quality of water is liquid. So Pitta people will have excess urine and sweat. That's because of the liquid element trying to get out of the body. They tend to feel thirsty. They have a tendency towards looser stools, remember, whereas Vata was dry, and we'll see that Kapha is on the heavier side. And spreading, fire spreads. And anything that involves spreading nature is a Pitta, whether it's their skin inflammation spreading or spreading their name and fame. That's a Pitta quality. And fire being hot is also pungent, okay? And so the quality of pungency is there. Heartburn, burning sensation when they're out of balance, maybe in the esophagus, maybe in the skin, burning type of feeling. Feelings of anger when they're out of balance, hot temper, all describes when Pitta is out of balance. And then red. Think about redness. If you see people who have flushed skin, they have redness in their skin, and they're not wearing any makeup, this is the quality of heat in the body. They have naturally red lips, red cheeks, even their nose may get red. Their eyes may also get red and bloodshot. So is there anyone, Balaji, does this describe you?
90%.
90%.
Except for the light on the rear of the flush screen.
Uh-huh.
And he's a manager too, so.
And he's a manager. So Balaji, this describes him to about 90%. So you're very dominant in Pitta dosha, so the diet that's going to be in here will be excellent for you to follow. Anybody else dominant in Pitta qualities? Deepa. And somewhat to Meena also. Yes. I recently had a lady come to my clinic who had so much excess heat, so much Pitta imbalance, that she has not been able to leave her house in 3 years. And no doctor, no naturopath, nobody has been able to help her. And when she called me, she was crying on the phone. And she said, if I come to your office, it has to be freezing cold in the winter, because I cannot come into a heated building. She gets so overly hot, she feels like she's going to suffocate and pass out. So I had all the windows open in my office, and she came in. And Ayurveda is helping her now, because we're the only system of medicine that addresses these types of qualities that we're seeing. And you're going to see how this is linked to foods and how much your foods can affect your dosha, take you out of balance or keep you in balance.
So these are all traits, so these are not imbalances.
These are your natural traits, and these will have a tendency to imbalance first. So we'll get to that in the food section. So you'll see that when you eat certain foods, these qualities go up. And now the heat is more produced in the body, or all of these qualities get more produced. Skin issues, for example. When Pitta goes out of balance, they'll tend to have some sort of acne, rosacea, eczema, or they'll have digestive problems, loose stools, diarrhea, or in between diarrhea, constipation, imbalanced bowel, or they'll get migraines, sharp pains. Kapha people. Your name? Sarvan. Okay, Sarvans are Kapha person. Can you bring your chair a little bit so when you're nodding your head, they can see you? Okay. All right. Earth. Think of earth. They also have water element, but they're strongly grounded in earth. Heavy. They'll have naturally large bones, larger muscles, bigger body frame. They have a tendency towards excess weight. But they're also very grounded people in general. They'll have deep voices. So if you can understand your prakriti as being kapha, you will stop trying to have unreasonable goals for yourself. If a kapha person wants to be a size 4 or size 6, it's very unhealthy for them. And it's sort of a very wrong concept in the West to try to have this perfect figure of this size 2 or size 4 figure. Because even if you could achieve it, it would be very unhealthy for a kapha person to be at that level, as it is a vata person to try to have huge muscles and be very Olympic type bodybuilding.
Yeah, I hope my wife hears that. She's behaving really
To lose weight. So kapha people being grounded, they're also calm and gentle and loyal people. Is that right, Shravan?
close. I can't deny that, right?
You can, no.
How can I deny this? I am.
Slow, earth. Remember, slow. They walk slow, they'll talk slow. Slow, not in a, sort of wrong type of slow, meaning thoughtfully. Thoughtfully they'll talk and walk. Their digestion is slower. So if a kapha person has a heavy meal, they'll feel very sluggish, uncomfortable, like they just want to rest. It's very uneasy for kapha to have a large meal because their metabolism is slower. And that's why their diet is very different from the people over here. Their movements are also generally a little bit more slower when they're out of balance. Cool, earth is defined as cool. So their skin will be cool and they'll have coldness in their chest. So they'll have repeated colds and congestions. Okay, that's just the natural tendency of when a kapha person gets sick, that's where they're going to feel it first. Mucus, cough, cold. Vata people will experience some type of pain, joint pain, constipation. Pitta people may get migraines, skin issues, or irritable bowel. Pitta people, sorry. Yes. So there's a kapha element in you if you have allergies. Oily skin, oily hair, oily in the joints. So you're not going to hear kapha people with cracking joints like vata. Damp, congestion in the chest, sinuses, throat, head. Dense, as earth is dense, they'll have a pad of fat, not just under their skin, but around their organs also internally. And their hair is denser, heavier, wavier, nails. Softness also describes a kapha person. Okay, their skin is soft. Their personality is soft. They have a pleasing nature. They're caring and compassionate. It's always nice to have a Kapha type friend with you because they are the people that are grounded and you can always rely on them. At the same time, if you have a Kapha spouse, you don't want to yell at a Kapha type person because they're sensitive. They take it to heart if you yell at them or say something to them that is demeaning or disrespectful. You know, a Pitta person uses their intellect to get over any insults. You know, I'm not like that, I'm better than they are, and they'll, you know, go for a run or something. Vata people will start to get worried that they really are like that, and they'll start to get really restless, and they'll lose their sleep over it. But Kapha people generally tend to hold it in and get sad over it. So you don't want to yell or be disrespectful, especially to them. Viscous. Viscousness is cohesiveness, and that's a major quality of Kapha people. And if you think of cohesive, you think of being attached to something. And Kapha people do. When they are actually out of balance, they'll get very attached to their children, to their spouse, to their parents. And so that's something that they have to be cautious of. And sweet describes them. So the people in the circle who were in the sweet group, how many of those were Kapha people? Kaphas generally, they like sweets. They're sweet people, they love sweets. And they love all sweet activities. Okay. So how many in my Kapha group does this describe you? Well, Sravan, let's take your example.
Yeah, I think most of them are pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, typically Saturday afternoon, I tend to sleep after these heavy meals. So yeah, I think most of them is amazed how close it reflects qualities.
So very dominant in this dosha, Kapha dosha. Anybody else dominant in Kapha dosha? Yeah?
I almost stood here almost the whole time some of the things here I'm like, I don't love sweets. I love salty food. But I'm thinking now that that could be a variation of, it's a deviation or the combination of doshas or something. Could be. But yeah, just like Savana was also saying, 80% I'll say.
I see a big match with all this cleansing, except I developed joint pain, so I'm strongly in there. And like I said, my Prakriti feels like you said was Vata, so but everything else does match right down. Things have changed after kids are born.
So there's Kapha Vata. Kapha Vata, so dual Prakriti. Now most of you can probably see where you fit. One a little bit more and a second coming close, right? Okay. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. So in perfect balance, you'll be very close in all three. But as I said, some qualities we are born with, we are inherent with, and that's what takes you to your dominant dosha.
So it's good to be not strong in one dosha?
No, it is good to be your natural Prakriti. You're born, how you were born. So think about growing up, the qualities you had growing up, the physical qualities. Okay, we all, as we have children, we all gain weight. Our hormones change as we age. Vata gets very strong after age of 50. Okay, so we all have a tendency to shift, okay, after our 20s and especially 30s. But if you think of how you were through most of your life, you'll know that that was your dominant dosha. And now your dominant dosha may have changed. What you want to do is whatever dosha is increased beyond what you were born with, we're trying to bring that back down. Okay, so let's say you were born with that bar graph, Kapha, Vata, Pitta. Now you're Vata, Kapha, Pitta. Your Vata is way too high. So you can be a Kapha dominant individual with too much Vata because of the foods you're eating, because of your lifestyle, because of how much you're moving around all the time. So your Vata has gone up. So we have to bring that down. You could be a Vata person and your Pitta has gone up. I was always a very strong Vata. When I went to Kerala to do my clinical training, and all they had was super spicy hot food all the time and the hot climate, for the first time in my life, I was seeing Pitta type imbalance. I was having loose stools and heat in my body, and I never had that. And I immediately knew it's Pitta imbalance from my foods and my environment, and I controlled that.
Does the puberty play any role in how the balance change? From what we are born with and how the puberty fits, and because things do change.
So puberty is going to be actually according to your Prakriti. But it's hard to tell in children, okay, what really their dosha is until they hit puberty. So for example, your 15-year-old now all of a sudden has acne all over their face. They are Pitta dominant. They have been Pitta dominant. And you can tell that from their skin. Now you know, okay, I know that my child has to control Pitta because that's naturally what they're going to imbalance in.
So how do you change? Like for example, I can clearly see that I was kapha person basically, but over a period of years I've moved into vata. A lot of factors, but main factor I personally think, I could be wrong, is the environment that I've lived in, cold climate ever since here for almost 15 years. So is that,
Yes.
can you still change that?
Yes, because your imbalance is Vata. So you're controlling Vata now. You have to control it through your diet and lifestyle. Yes, that's a very good point. She knows now that this is not her nature. Her nature was Kapha, but her Vata is out of balance. That's why she's sitting over there. So you do what she's doing and you do what. Now you can go down. Thank you all, the three of you, for being examples. So health is the art of keeping ourselves in balance. And all the time, we're changing. As I said, our environment, the foods we're eating, our jobs, our habits. So what health is actually finding out what is causing that imbalance and controlling it. And that's what we're going to learn next. But before we learn how to become healthy with our diet, we're going to learn why we get sick. The Ayurvedic view of why we get sick. First concept to remember is that like increases like. So if you are born with the qualities of air and ether, you naturally are dry, cold, rough, mobile, right? Now you start doing things that increase those qualities, you're going to get out of balance. And this is what we're going to learn in here. What are those things? So in a vata, dry foods, fast activities. You've already got a lot of air and ether movement, and now your lifestyle is like that. Fast activities, always in a rush, not having time to wind down, quieten your mind, be in silence. Cold climate, as Hamsa said, the climate doesn't suit her. Too much stimulation. Probably why our society today is so vata dominant. And even as some of you over here said, that you know your kapha prakriti, but your vata is out of balance, is because of the constant stimulation we have in our environment. And especially from the use of technology and screens, of always having to respond, to answer, of being stimulated. You can't even watch the news anymore because they have 4 things going on in one screen. You see that? CNN, there's the headlines, then there's the stock, then there's other things coming up constantly. So this all shoots vata up. And it's the number one imbalance I see in my clinic now, is this one, Vata, especially from constant stimulation. In Pitta, hot food, hot weather, repressed anger. Think of anger as building heat in the body. So if a Pitta person has constantly something on their mind and they're not able to express that constructively, it's going to increase Pitta. Pressure. Pittas like challenges, and so they tend to get themselves into high pressure situations. They want to take the next project, they want to get ahead, they want to do their best, and they can't have it any less than that. They're like perfectionists, and they're very good at that because they have sharp intellect, sharp mind, and a drive. But what happens is they get themselves into situations where there's a lot of pressure on them. They take this pressure and they hold that pressure inside, and that shoots Pitta up. Perfectionism will increase Pitta. In Kapha people, aside from dampness, and that's why spring doesn't suit them, heavy foods. And they like sweet, sour, salt. They like savory. They like to eat. They're foodies. And this puts Kapha out of balance. Lack of movement. And that is because Kaphas tend to get into a routine. They like their routine. They like the way their day is scheduled. They don't want to get out of that too much. And so what happens is there can be a lack of movement for a typical Kapha person, clinging too much to routine. Seasons aggravate doshas. So right now, we are in a Vata aggravating season. Winter does not do Vata good. So this cold and dry climate will naturally tend to make Vata people more worrisome, get anxious. Their mood goes down. This sad seasonal disorder, very, very strong in Vata type people in winter. They may tend towards constipation in the cold months and to increased pain in their body, back pain especially, in winter months, just because of the season, and they don't know how to balance themselves in winter. And you'll learn now next. So Pitta people, same thing in summer, they get out of balance naturally. Their heat creates discomfort. They'll have digestive issues, maybe more headaches. They get irritable in summer. And their anger tends to increase, so they might be a little bit more snappy at their children or at their spouse. It's hard to believe that just the season can cause these changes. And Kapha in spring, their allergies will flare up. They get cough, they get congestion, and they'll tend to get tired, lethargic, slower. They'll sleep more. Now here's one, the wrong kind of exercise. And this has to be addressed because here in the West, they're so fixated on certain types of exercise, okay, like running, marathons, weightlifting, this HIIT exercise, high intensity interval training, that sort of, if you do HIIT, you're going to be the strongest, healthiest, most vibrant person. And this P90X, are any of your kids, teenagers, doing P90X? Yeah. So certain exercises are good for certain people. The worst thing a Vata can do for themselves is this type of high-intensity exercise. It puts Vata out of balance. It may be good for a Kapha type person if you can get them up off the sofa to do it, because they have the stamina. They have exceptional stamina, and they could outrun anybody if they put their minds to it. Vata people are not built for this. And what happens is, you already have dryness in your joints. Now you're doing all this jumping and vigorous activity, it dries out even more. And now you wonder why you end up with knee pain, back pain, pain in your feet. So for Vata people, think of slow, rhythmic movement. Walking, yoga, cycling, slow, rhythmic. Rhythmic is the key. Vatas need rhythm in their life. Remember, they're the people that are always running around. Anything rhythmic helps them. Anything with a lot of movement helps Kapha. Anything with a challenge helps Pitta. So we talked about these, right? Pitta and Kapha. So Ayurveda says that all disease is rooted in the mind. And most of my patients that I see, I will always get into what's bothering them. Sometimes it takes time. Vata people will tell me very quickly, but with Kapha people, I have to figure out what's really bothering them. And I can then form a link to a mental stress to their illness over and over and over again. Unless it's a trauma or accident, something that happened by mistake, I can always root the illness in the emotions. Vatas, when they're out of balance, they will tend to have anxiety, insecurity, fear. Now, I'm saying Vatas, but this could apply to anybody, because remember, you could be Kapha or Pitta, but your Vata is imbalanced, right? Because of all those qualities. Restlessness, confusion, grief, worry, sadness. So if you experience these emotions, you can tell yourself, my Vata is high. I need to eat the right foods. I need to quiet down. I need to have some silence. I need to balance myself. Pittas, these are the qualities that are associated with Pitta. Anger, irritability, hate, becoming very judgmental, over-ambitious, competitive, jealous, critical, perfection, sharp speech, being dominant, and work addiction. This is a major Pitta quality. So if you have someone in your family, maybe your spouse or a friend, and you know that a lot of these things describe them, you can now tell them, you have a Pitta imbalance. We need to correct this. Kapha people will have attachment. They become possessive, whether it's possessive about people, their children, their spouse, or it could be their things. Laziness is another big Kapha quality. When they are out of balance, they just want to retreat. Depression is also common in Kapha. Sense stimulation. So for Vata people, these are the activities that really disturb them. Now, these activities will disturb Vata people more than anybody else. But if you do this over and over, it will put any of you out of balance. It just happens quicker in them. Loud noise. Shopping, yes. You can tell your spouse not to shop so much. It's not good for her dosha. Loud noise, violent films. Remember, Vatas process a lot. So when they see images, it stays in their mind. It'll show up in their dreams at night, and it disturbs them on a subtle level. Crowded places. Because we pick up energy from the people around us. Vata people are sensitive. So they will tend to pick up other people's energy, and they will get imbalanced from it. Shopping. Why shopping? Excess stimulation. There's stuff all around you. And Vata people are already looking at this, looking at that, looking at that. They have 4 things in their hand, and they're calculating how much they can get. And they get drained. They'll get drained very quickly. Pitta people, working too much, excess screen use, that goes for everyone, but especially Pitta people, high pressure jobs, as I mentioned, negative relations with people. If they're not on good terms with their colleagues, it's really going to affect them. Sunbathing also affects Pitta people. And no downtime, constantly working. Pitta people have this need to be always productive. Not letting themselves stop will imbalance them. Kapha people, cabin fever, staying indoors too much, being in their routine, not wanting to do different things, constantly eating. So, when a Kapha person gets stressed, eating is what consoles them. It's what grounds them. So they will eat and eat constantly to get that consolation. Kapha people love to take naps, and it's not good for them. They sleep, food, lack of stimulation, underuse of senses. Aging across the board for everyone, aging increases vata. So we are all going to accumulate vata as we age, but if you are already dominant in vata, you've got to control it. Otherwise, you will end up seeing it in your skin, in your joints, and in disease.
So I do have a question. You said Kapha, by dominant, their property is to be quiet and be sluggish and be very happy and content. So what is wrong with taking naps?
You see,
Why change it?
because napping increases that dosha in them. It makes them more slow and more sluggish and more tired.
I think I'm confused because I remember you saying we want to be our dominant.
Okay, but like increases like. Remember that.
Okay, so there's a balance.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to be too much Kapha or too much anything, even though that will be my nature to do.
Yes, right. It may be your kapha has a nature of wanting to sleep. But that's increasing it in them. Like spiciness, pittas love spicy food. But it's balance of the doshas, or just be closer to your prakriti. Don't have any dosha way up. Unlikely. Unlikely that your nature is that, unless you were born sick. But we're all born healthy. So we are like that bar graph. But what's happening in imbalance is one is going up more than the others.
So the goal is essentially to get them all back equal.
As much as is possible. As much as is possible. Okay, I'm going to move through these quickly so we can get on to the... You can take a picture of this slide, but I'm not going to go through it. So I can keep moving.
And the goal is to get everything in balance. So the kapha is very high, so my goal is to reduce.
Right.
But you're going to talk.
Right.
So how do I reduce?
That's what we're going to learn. Okay. Well. Mix. So even if you are mixed. No, I'm not saying kapha take naps. I'm saying naps are not good for kapha people. No. That's not about tendency. That last slide. Not tendency. What things aggravate your dosha? Yeah. Did everyone understand that? What the last slides were?
You started off with characteristics of doshas and you switched over to what is not.
Yes. Everyone got that clear? Otherwise, you'll go home and read these and it'll be confusing. Okay, now I just want to give you a quick overview of how disease develops. So we said it begins with an imbalance of one or more of the doshas, okay, right? So no matter what dosha you are, any dosha can get imbalanced. And illness happens when that imbalance is not corrected over time. So what happens first? So I want to take an example of Shravan, who's kapha dominant person. Now, Shravan goes to a wedding and there's all kinds of wonderful savory foods. And this wedding is in his family and it's 1 week long wedding. So it's every night of just eating, taking naps in the day because there's nothing else to do, and spending time with some friends in the evening and then sleeping again at night. And he does this for 7 nights. So kapha has gone up. Kapha has increased. And so what is happening is sanshaya, the first stage in disease. The dosha builds up. He may have some mild symptoms at the end of that marriage. When he comes home, he may feel like he's just tired, not himself, feels uneasy. He's stepped on the scale, he's gained 5 pounds in 1 week. And these are his mild symptoms. But he pays no attention. None of us really would pay much attention at that point. But then what happens is, the dosha gets aggravated because he's not paying attention, he's going about his work, going on with life. So we enter stage 2, and this is prakopa, that the dosha starts to get aggravated because he hasn't taken steps to balance it. So he gets up in the morning and he has his usual maybe paranthas or whatever, heavy breakfast, then goes off to work, doesn't exercise because he's not used to exercise. Why should he exercise, right? There's nothing major happening that would cause him to do that. Then again at night he has another meal. Then you see, so he hasn't taken steps to correct it. So the dosha is now aggravated. And
Supposing, when you come back to your normal life, wouldn't it then get balanced? That is a temporary thing. So you're saying that stays.
it depends if you took steps to balance it. It's not like, now if he had come back and said, okay, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to just eat the right foods, yes, key word, then he would bring himself into balance. But prior to this seminar, Shravana didn't know that he had to do that. So he just thinks he went to a wedding, had some food, and it'll all work out. So dosha gets aggravated. Now in Shravan, he might experience some mucus, some congestion. A week later, 2 weeks later, he comes down with a cold. Cold, cough, congestion. And he goes to the CVS and he buys the liquid NyQuil to take care of his symptoms. So liquid NyQuil he gets NyQuil PM, right? The one that helps him sleep. So now he is sleeping for 10 hours because he feels that sleep is good for his cold. And the dosha continues to increase. And now it is prasara. So dosha now moves around in his body. Okay. And it tries to find a weak point in him where to lodge itself. And that weak point could be some genetic disposition, it could be some past injury or trauma, or it could be just a natural point in his body where kapha people tend to accumulate. And then the dosha will find that weak area and it will lodge itself there. And this is called sthana samshraya. And then the seeds of disease sprout. Now this process is not weeks or months. It could be years that this is going on in his body. 3-4 years later, the seeds of disease sprout. So let's say the genetic disposition is heart. He has history of heart attack in his family. So the dosha starts to lodge in his arteries, and then plaque accumulates. And it's happening with no symptoms at all, so he has no idea what's happening. And it's going on for years because of sthana samshraya. Then the disease gets more serious and goes into vyakti. Symptoms of disease are now in full-fledged swing. So in the case of heart, you may not have many symptoms. But in other diseases, this is when you really start seeing more than just weak congestion. Now you're going to the doctor to get a diagnosis. And Bheda is, the disease has fully developed. It may or may not be curable at this point. So if you are in stage 1 and 2, and this is for almost all chronic illness out there, if you are in stage 1 and 2, it is easily treatable. But the thing is that most of us ignore our symptoms in 1 and 2. We don't pay any attention to balancing ourselves because we don't have time, we're busy, we have a million things to do. So what we come last. Our health is the lowest on the priority list. And the disease is happening. And somewhere in 3 or 4, some of you may say, you know what, I need to get this checked out. But I am seeing more and more people with diseases in 5 and 6, and then they go to the doctors and the doctors say, there's nothing I can do at this point. And that's when they're trying to seek Ayurvedic help or some naturopathic help. So this is just a diagram of how the disease lodges. But I want you to imagine that the doshas are like water filling up a bucket. You are in a garden and there is a bucket and you're filling the bucket up with water. The bucket gets full with the water and then it leaks and it spreads into your garden. It lodges in some weeds. It gives birth to this growth of weeds and the weeds grow and they take over your garden. That's what's happening. So do not ignore your symptoms. I'm not saying you have to run and take pills, but you have to learn to balance right away when you see something's not right in your body. Your intuition. I want to just quickly go over some Vata-related illnesses. Now, when I say Vata-related, I don't mean only Vata people will get them. Remember, I mean anybody who has increase of Vata dosha. Over time, they've not addressed how to balance their doshas. These are common illnesses that are Vata dominant. Remember those activities I went over? Right? All that sense stimulation, too much moving around, not having time for oneself, the wrong foods. Over the years, these are illnesses related to that Vata imbalance. And these are Pitta-related illnesses. Go back. Pitta. Kapha. PCOS is becoming very common, very much a kapha disease. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Cancers are kapha. It doesn't mean you have to be a kapha person.
Increase of kapha increases the probability of cancer.
I don't want to say it increases, but it is one of the manifestations of excess kapha. One of.
I've seen some cases where the other Pitta, active people.
Yes, yes. So what happens in this case is, in cases like cancer, there's all 3 doshas at play. So one of them will first stop working. So let's say Vata is imbalanced. Vata will cause constriction in the arteries. Now the blood's not flowing. And now kapha starts to grow because of this constriction. There's a growth. And that growth is not getting a blood supply, so it grows and grows. And it becomes a kapha type problem, but it started off as a Vata or a Pitta problem. So cancer is really 3-doshic. It's
Cancer can be put in every slide, right? Because if
yes.
too much Pitta dosha, I still am prone to cancer.
Cancer is all doshas out of balance and some genetic disposition of the lodging of the doshas. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. So you are most prone to diseases of your dominant dosha, but a lot of times one dosha will affect another. Now we will get into the foods for each dosha. Any other questions up until now?
I did see one of the most popular diseases that we is diabetes.
Diabetes is tridoshic. It's very much kapha, but it's caused by vata and pitta. It could be caused by, in fact, Ayurveda outlines 6 types of diabetes. The 3 doshas and combinations of the doshas. And the treatment for diabetes in Ayurvedic is very much dependent on your prakriti, your dominant dosha. So if I see 3 people with diabetes, they may have 3 completely different treatments. The food, the diet may be similar, but the herbal protocol will be very different.
I have a question. The yearly checkup we go and we collect all these numbers. Like, what is my cholesterol, what is my pressure, what is my sugar level, how good that is in the Ayurvedic standards. Can it be thrown out?
No, the labs are very important, and the labs will tell you when there's a problem, clearly. But the problem with the labs is that doctors rely on it so much that it cannot determine everything going on. So you can have disease process happening in your body, and your labs are 100% fine. And an allopathic doctor is only going to give you symptomatic relief. But an Ayurvedic practitioner can determine what's causing the symptoms at a root level, even if your labs are fine. So you absolutely need your labs, and they will clearly tell you if something is not right.
You say symptom. What do you mean by that?
Okay, I'll give you an example. I've had multiple clients, female, who have come to me and said, I have pain all over my body, my joints are swelling, I have severe fatigue, I have irritability, mood swings, constipation, and her labs are completely fine. And she's gone to doctors and they've said, it's in your head, you're not getting enough sleep, here's some pain medication, and that medication throws them off even more. So they're getting worse and worse. So the labs can't always give the full picture. It's a tool. Okay. So first concept in health is it's not the food that you eat that determines your health. It's how you're digesting it and assimilating that food. This is the key basic concept in all of eating. If your digestion is strong, you can eat most foods without issue, and your body will effectively extract the nutrients and supply nourishment to your body. Like animals in the wild, they eat whatever. Their digestion stays strong because they don't have the kind of environment that we live in of stresses primarily. Children have naturally strong digestion. That's why they can eat a variety of foods. You don't have to be worried about giving a special diet to your kids. Just keep their minds strong and healthy. Keep their lifestyle. You focus on lifestyle with kids, not on diet. As you age, you need to bring in diet. If your digestion is weak, you can have apples and carrots and broccoli, and your body won't extract anything out of it, and it can worsen your situation. So the first thing is to make sure your digestion is strong. If it's not, and you're eating foods, you're building up toxins in the body, which is called Alma, and these toxins will lead to disease. So what is digestion? It's Agni. It's Agni. Now, there are many different types of Agni in the body. I'm just focusing on Jatar Agni. I'm focusing on the digestive Agni. It's the fire element. It's the enzymes, hydrochloric acid enzymes that are produced in the stomach that help you digest and assimilate food. This is what I'm talking about when I say Agni. So how do you know, first of all, that your Agni is strong or not? How do you know? So this is how you know. These are the symptoms of your Agni being out of balance. You could have Tikshna Agni, you could have Vishama Agni, you could have Sama Agni. There are different types of Agni. Weak, overly strong, or irregular. Bloating after you eat. Gas, belching. If you have anyone in your family who tends to pass gas or belch after a meal and your kids complain, "Dad, stop," and your dad says, "Normal, it's natural. This is a natural part." It's not natural, actually. If you have passed gas after a meal, it's because you ate a food that wasn't agreeable to you. Don't think that it's normal. In India, people burp loudly after food. This is not a natural or normal thing. It's a sign. Because they drink all this liquid after food, that liquid interferes with their digestion and they end up burping. Heartburn, constipation, urgency to go to the bathroom after a meal is a red flag. Foul-smelling breath. Someone in your family, they're brushing their teeth, but their breath still has a smell to it. It's Agni, weak Agni. Or foul-smelling stools. Did you know that your stools should have no smell? I can automatically tell what my kids are eating. I'm sorry to be graphic. And especially when we go on vacation, on the second or third day, when the bathroom has a smell to it, I know it's because of the food they're eating. So if you go to the bathroom and there's no smell, someone comes right after you and they don't know you were in there, it is a sign of good, strong Agni. Irregular shaped stools. You should get in the habit of looking into the toilet after you eat. Having undigested food in your stool is also a sign of poor Agni. Anorexia means lack of appetite. Good Agni means you have good appetite. You feel hungry 3 times a day. You feel thirsty. A lack of hunger, a lack of thirst is a sign of weak Agni. So now, let's talk about how to protect our Agni. If you have any of those symptoms, what can we do to bring strength to our digestive power? Choose foods according to your constitution, not to the latest fads or Western concepts of what's healthy. This is very, very difficult because all around us we are exposed to marketing and people around us telling what worked for them. And you think, oh, she became a vegan or a raw foodist, so I'm going to do raw food and lose 20 pounds. Well, you may lose the weight, but you may have serious digestive issues after that. So when I was in college, about 19 or 20, I started having constipation. And I would go days, almost a week, without a bowel movement. So I eventually went to the doctor, and they said, you need more fiber in your diet. So start eating salads. And my dosha was very vata dominant. Start eating more salads and increase more fiber. And I did that, and I ended up with hemorrhoids and bleeding, and nothing helped me. Laxatives, nothing helped me. It was only Ayurveda that helped me, and my diet completely reversed. Everything that the West said for me was wrong. So we're going to choose foods according to your dosha. Choose foods according to the season. Remember in India, they would not sell ice cream anywhere in the winter months? When I was a kid and I would go to India in December, it was still warm. and I wanted ice cream, and they would say, no, we don't have ice cream, it's December. And I would think, this is such a funny place, but there's truth in that. You should not be bringing home watermelon from the store in winter. You should be eating squash, potatoes, carrots, apples in winter. Eat fresh, sattvic food of the best quality you can afford. This is also another big confusion. Oh, everybody's saying eat organic, eat organic. Then there's a study out that says, oh, organic foods have absolutely no effect on your health. Well, I can tell you one thing, that GMO foods are now in almost everything we eat. And a GMO food, I don't want to get into that conversation, is not a real food. Okay, your body sees it as a foreign particle when you chew it. It does not know how to digest that kind of food. It becomes toxic in your body. So if you're not doing organic, then at least look for the non-GMO label. You have to be really careful because the marketing has gotten really good. Pirate Booty. Pirate Booty, they sell it to kids. It's a health food. They put all kinds of labeling, extra fiber, low salt, but it's a GMO food. So you have to read the packaging. Regarding organic, if you can afford it, buy it. And if you're on the fence, at least buy it for foods that don't have a thick peel. All berries, absolutely, buy organic. Apples, yes, organic. Banana doesn't need to be. Okay, squash doesn't need to be. Just use that rule. Avoid using the microwave. Again, in another seminar, I can go over these and the whys of these. But if you're trying to put healthy food in your body and you're putting it in the microwave is killing your food. You're eating dead food. If you give a plant microwaved water for a month, it will die. Don't eat unless you're hungry. And don't drink in place of your hunger. Don't have liquids with your meals. As I said, liquid interferes with the digestive process. So you have your drinks an hour before or an hour later. Sit to eat. Don't stand. Don't talk. Don't watch TV. Just sit. Have gratitude for your food, because eating is very much a mental process. And how we digest our food, it starts with our mind. We have to look at our food, appreciate it, observe it, and enjoy it fully with our senses. Then our digestive juices start flowing, and we nicely assimilate our food, no matter what it is. If you just do that one thing of having awareness with your food, just in that act, you will eat right. Chew well. Chew until your food is liquid. You can only do this if you have awareness while you're eating. If you're watching TV or talking, you're going to eat large bites of food, and it's going to cause your Agni to weaken. Don't eat till you're full. This much food, what you can fill in 2 hands, is what you should be eating at each meal. Nobody should be having ice cold drinks ever, because it puts out Agni. Remember, Agni is fire. Ice cold puts it out. We'll get into these. If you think that eating a lot of light food, excluding my kapha people over here, is going to help you get healthier, lose weight, this is wrong. This is a very Western concept, and it's not healthy for vatas or pittas. Yes. Oops. Okay, everyone want to take a snap? And then we'll move on. All right, now we're going to get into, everyone get that? Okay. Best and worst foods. Okay, Vata people, pay attention. General is the word, okay? These don't aggravate all people. But what I'm saying here are these foods eaten in excess over time will increase Vata dosha. Okay? It will increase it in anybody. But it happens first to you guys. Salads, cold drinks, white sugar, and refined foods, because white is dry. White sugar and refined foods are dry and light. Dry foods, crackers, biscuits, cookies, dry fruits. So a lot of people who are on these weight loss diets, they eat these rice cakes and dry foods all the time, salads. I mean, that will definitely make you ill. Getting there. Meals with many different foods. So of the three, Vata has the weakest, naturally weakest digestion. So they have to pay extra care and attention to keep Agni strong. So when you have a meal that has like a thali of so many different foods, dal, yogurt, rice, chapati, papad, achar, this is all creating havoc in your stomach. It's putting a lot of work on your digestive system. So Agni loses its strength. Now, if you eat like this every day, you're losing Agni, Vata goes up. Beans don't suit Vatas.
When you say beans, do you mean like chickpeas, those kinds
Yes,
of things, or do you mean like dal?
not lentils, beans. Chole, rajma, black beans. Now, you can have the beans, but they should not be pressure cooked, slow cooked, soaked overnight, and spiced well. Okay? Then you can digest them.
What happens when you pressure cook? So what happens when you pressure cook?
Pressure cooker does not break down the enzymes in the beans. So you're still consuming that, and it's going to create gas and bloating. When you slow cook it, and when you soak them and slow cook it, that time of 8 hours breaks down those enzymes, making it more digestible.
And lentils are not a problem?
Lentils are fine. Yeah.
But we typically soak and pressure cook.
It should be slow cooked for them. Yeah. Or Vata aggravate. Caffeine. If you have one of these Vata people that I described, that are just, they move around a lot, they walk fast, they talk fast, they're all about movement, and on top of that, they're taking caffeine, no. Vata goes up. Alcohol also, because alcohol has the qualities of light, cold, dry. I'm not saying you never have these foods. I'm saying when you have them, you have to balance them. That's it. Like an equation. So one day you want to go out, you have all these foods. The next day you avoid them. You have the Vata, nourishing foods. Let's see what those are. So this is a category I've brought handouts for all of you. Okay?
Switch, but I have a question. You had defined food. So like one of the things, all Indians, we eat white rice
Yeah.
every day. And I've had some arguments with my spouse too, like try not to eat too much rice. But I feel that my digestion with rice is much easier than with any of the other brown rice or quinoa or even is that okay?
Yes? Yes. So actually, basmati rice, There's different grains, but basmati white rice, preferably organic, is fine for vatas and fine for pittas. They will have a tendency to add weight to kaphas. Okay? So you can take, I have brought handouts for the foods for each dosha. So I'm not going to go through this because of time. I want to get through the other slides. Okay, but here I have written the foods that balance vatas. These are all good for vatas. So heavy, nourishing, warm, oily, not fried, means food that have ghee, healthy oils, aggravating foods to vata. In the fruits, apples, we talked about apples. That's not the ideal choice for a vata person. They should have juicy fruits, seasonal juicy fruits. Look at all these vegetables that are aggravating to vata. Now, if you have cauliflower, it should be very soft and well cooked to the point of soft. If you're having raw any of these, you will get constipated. If you're a vata dominant person, okay? A kapha people have strong digestion. They can have these foods raw. They're not going to be affected in the same way. In dairy, cheese is too difficult for vatas to digest. And all nuts should be in small amounts. Vatas generally do good on grains, though. They do good on most of the grains.
I see there's going to be two sets of cooking going on.
Nut butters are good. Nuts, raw nuts in small quantities. All right. Okay, Pitta people and Pittas in your family, red meat, hot food, high salt. Salt is not good for Pitta people because they have a tendency towards heart issues anyway. So you want to limit the salt. Sour foods. All alcohol really disturbs Pitta more than anybody else. And fermented foods. Vinegar, achars, sorry.
Is vinegar the same other side of vinegar? Is that also?
Pittas have to be careful. It is generally a tonic for vatas and kaphas. Pittas, medicinally, it could be fine.
Because what about dosa and idli? You have to soak it and it ferments.
The dosa and idli is fine. Vatas take it well. Pittas take it well. And kaphas have to just limit. One dosa, next day salad. Pitta balancing foods. These are all foods that are fine for pittas to eat.
So nuts are not good for pitta?
Too much heat in them, so small amounts. So if you're healthy and balanced, it's okay. Okay? But these are the nuts are foods that if you're out of balance are going to aggravate. And these are aggravating foods for pitta. Meaning it's going to increase pitta. So if you're eating these every day, there is a point where it will be excess.
Eggplant seems to be the bad guy category for both.
It's good for kapha.
And I love it.
Anything spicy, sorry guys, but that's the number one thing that really puts pittas out is the spicy. Yeah. Pittas people, yeah, you have to limit it. Okay, kapha aggravating foods, fried food, dairy, Dairy is very kapha forming because it has a tendency to create mucus in the body. Nuts, heavy fruits, mango, papaya, dates, bananas, and avocado should not be your first choice of foods. Heavy oils, even coconut oil, is not the ideal cooking food for kaphas. Fruit juices, too sweet. Pastries, desserts, sweets, chocolate. Okay, now, non-veg every day for a kapha person is not good. Okay, so if you're a non-veg, space them out. Every third day, have non-veg. Whereas like with a vata person, they can eat more non-veg. These are balancing foods for kapha. Sorry, there's not that much.
All spices, all legumes, so you have so many varieties.
All beans, all lentils, all vegetables. Yeah. Aggravating foods to kapha. Okay, so in a nutshell, vatas do best on warm, nourishing, heavy, moist foods. So you can't memorize these lists, okay? It's difficult. You're traveling, you're here and there, you don't know what to eat. Keep these concepts in mind. Anything cooked, easy to digest, has a moistness to it, is a vata food. Pittas, you have strong appetites. Really, if you just control, say, salt and alcohol, you can pretty much eat anything. Food is not what aggravates pitta as much as the lifestyle and excess in salt and spice and alcohol. Okay. Kaphas, you have slower digestion. So you want to thrive on light, plant-based foods. So this raw food and vegan trend is really good for our kapha group. It is terrible for others. If a pitta person tries to go on a raw food diet, they'll get extremely irritable, and a vata person will get pain in their body and improper constipation. And remember how I talked to you about how disease starts. It starts as those symptoms, but then it starts to move in the body and it creates disease. So vata people should actually have frequent meals. Okay, their energy tends to run out. So it's good for them to eat 5 or 6 smaller meals a day and carry snacks with them. Pitta people, you absolutely need to have 3 solid meals a day. Do not skip breakfast, and don't try to go on these fad diets where you have strict portion control. And kaphas, now we're wrapping up. I want you to pick back up your food quiz and edit it now to make sense to you. Even if you don't remember the foods, just using the concepts that I described, if you can figure out what foods are healthy for you, how often you should be eating them, and what foods are not suitable to you. That's what I want you to see, whether you think it's good for you or not based on what you learned.
Is there any foods which are like sort of good for all to some extent?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And kapha too. Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, all I can say is that if you are balanced, no food will disturb you. If your Agni is strong, you can eat anything. The trick is to know when you are going out of balance and then turn to these foods to bring yourself back to balance and make your Agni strong. So let's say you have different dosha dominant people in your family. Now, it's impractical to cook different foods, or you go to office and they don't have availability of these foods, so how do you make it practical? So one is that there are foods that might not be good for everyone, but that overlap in at least two of the doshas. So a good breakfast would be, as you said, slow-cooked, steel-cut oatmeal or any porridge, any type of grain in the morning that's cooked warm, all three doshas can eat. Now the toppings will differ. Vatas may put ghee and maple syrup, kaphas may skip the maple syrup. Pittas can add some spices to it, some cinnamon. So in that way it can differ, but everyone in the family can have oatmeal. Lunch, an ideal food for all three doshas, khichdi. Now you can't eat khichdi every day, but think of the concept of khichdi. It's a one-pot meal. One-pot meals are excellent for all doshas because they're easy to digest and they're nourishing. So you can have grain, veggies, and some dals, and you cook it all together, pulao or mixed khichdi, and you can modify this. So if a kapha wants to have less grain, you put less grain. I am not saying you have no grains. You put less grain, more dal, more vegetables. Vatas will put more grain heavy. You'll add more ghee, they'll add less ghee. They'll skip the hari mirch. One-pot meals are very good. And dinner, you can have your normal standard meal of chapati, basmati or brown rice or quinoa, sabzi, and one dal. Yogurt, nobody should have at dinner. It's too hard for any of you to digest. But the key is balance. So let's say your dinner was a very large meal and you felt you overate. The next morning you're going to feel it. So the next morning, kaphas should skip breakfast. Pittas should have only fruit for breakfast, and vatas should have a light meal, maybe a slice of toast. A slice of toast and some tea with that, herbal tea. I mean, that's ideal. But I don't want you to get so fixated on foods. If you just pick the main things that aggravate you and limit those. And each of you knows what those foods are. We went through a number of foods. You probably know what foods, like somebody said, beans. Limit the beans. If you know that rice makes you gain weight, limit the rice. And pick the food groups the concepts that I mentioned on the slide before, and stick to that. In general, you don't have to worry so much unless you're out of balance, meaning you're symptomatic. Those signs I talked about, Agni being weak, that's when you know you have to switch to a diet. And then you may have to do it for a few weeks to get your Agni back going.
Why did you say that yogurt is bad for all in the night? Because in the daytime we can't eat yogurt, and growing up from the south, being from the south, we always had yogurt as part of the meal.
Yogurt is, Ayurveda classifies it as a hard to digest food. and it's a cold food. So, in the warmer climates, it's okay if you had it at night. But here, it's ideal to have it during the day, because at night, again, it tends to weaken Agni if you had it every single night for dinner. Yeah. So without me getting into dairy in this seminar, in general, milk should always be heated. Drink warm, not cold. Milk is pacifying to pittas, and vatas can have it spiced. Cardamom, nutmeg, cinnamon, and kaphas should reduce dairy. Almond milk is excellent. Non-GMO soy milk is fine for vata dosha. There's all kinds of non-dairy milks. Just read the packaging.
So can we extend some of these to other animals, like dogs and all? Do they have
Do you love your dog?
She gives all kinds of grains for the dog.
Yeah.
Different vocal plants. So we are wondering.
Yeah, no, you can, dogs thrive on whole grains and chapati, and my dog loves chapati and vegetables. Any other questions? If not, I have 15 minutes. I have a slide on food combinations if you guys want to learn it. Yes, did you have a
Yeah, I just have a question. One of the things is, as you said, as you age, you tend to digest slowly. Is there like something, okay, let's say you went for a party and you felt uncomfortable after you eat. I know you could walk, but other than that, I mean, even though you may not have eaten a lot of quantity, that may be just not the right quantity for you that day. Maybe the 2 idlis you ate today didn't digest. Is there something you could do about it?
Yeah, there are herbs that you can make a tea with and drink that. And they're very helpful. So cumin, coriander, and fennel. If you mix these three, say like half a teaspoon of each, 3 or 4 cups of water, and boil it down to half that, you can drink this decoction and it will help. Don't drink anything. If you had a big meal, do not drink till your food digests. Nothing. Yes. No. It's the opposite. So you drink through the day. Everybody should be drinking fluids through the day. Not with or after eating. 1 hour, yeah. But you feel like you feel lighter. So another half an hour seminar on water. But your foods should have natural liquid in them. We look at our diets, sambar, rasam, dals, they have liquid in them. But the Western food of meat and these pastas and pizzas and all this refined food, there's no liquid quantity. They have to drink 8 cups a day. But for us, if you just make sure you are urinating 2 to 3 hours and your urine is not dark, you're fine.
But is it wrong to drink too much water?
Yes. Yes, I actually had a patient who drank so much water because she was into this fad that all her sodium was eliminated from her body. She was fatigued, she was overhydrated, she was sick.
Unless, of course, you have a condition where you have.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a good general, like 6 to 8 cups of water, but you're getting some of that in your food. And the marker is your urine, color and output. Vatas need a lot of water because they're dry. Pittas need water because they're hot. Pittas, kapha's water turns into weight. No. But hey, you have the best personalities.
Can you talk about the fasting? Because I saw that recommended for
That's a very good point, because fasting is such a part of our dharma that we need to cover this. Of course, any spiritual endeavor, even in eating, will have a positive effect on you. So if you're fasting for spiritual purposes, do so. If you are fasting to lose weight, to attend a function quickly, Vatas definitely, if you have a fast, it needs to be a modified fast. So you can do, like a no-grain fast where you're still eating some foods. You're allowed nuts and dry fruits and milk, those types of fast, like the Navratri type fast, is okay. Again, I wouldn't say 9 days straight, but that's the kind of modified fast. Fasting for Pittas are not suggested, because they have such strong appetites, they get very irritated and weak without food. So they need a modified fast. They could do like no salt, a no salt fast. That could be fine. Kapha's fasting is highly recommended. In fact, I do give in my treatment protocols a 1 day a week to people who have excess kapha in the body. 1 day a week green juice fast.
Can I get your card?
Questions, or should we look at that slide? Okay. So one part about eating, I gave you the foods that are ideal for you, but what also matters is how you're eating them. And Ayurveda puts so much emphasis on the proper combination of foods. There is even an order to eating foods. And I want to bring this to your attention, because if you say, okay, Amita, I'm eating all the right foods that you told me, but I still have indigestion, I'm still symptomatic, then my next question would be, how are you combining these foods? There was a South Indian lady once, and she was Vata aggravated, and she was eating a Vata diet. And it took me a long time to figure out that she was having fish and dairy. And she was having fish every night, and she was having it with dairy. So once we eliminated that, her digestive issues were resolved. So you can take a look at some of these things and see where you're combining foods. Now, the ones in bold are actually the worst of all. So think about a banana and milk shake or smoothie that you're making. In Ayurveda, this is one of the worst food combinations, banana and milk. Okay, and the reason is the makeup of these foods. When they're combined, the stomach, the Agni that's producing these different enzymes, isn't capable of digesting certain foods when eating together. So those foods putrefy and they rot inside of us, in our small intestines. And again, once in a while, not a big deal, but if you eat it every day, you're going to wonder why you have some digestive problems later on. Okay, so milk does not go with those foods, okay? The banana of them is the worst, but all of them, like you don't ever have milk in the same meal as yogurt. Avoid. Eggs and cheese. Eggs with a glass of milk is terrible. Cow's milk. Cow's milk, goat's milk, any animal milk. Non-dairy milk is okay. Yeah, you can have almond milk smoothie with banana. This is on my next slide, the good news. I was going to give you some good news about this. Okay, the good news is it's in one of these points. The good news is when you do like an instant pot, that is okay. Because you're combining them and the foods are taking on the qualities of each other. And it becomes more digestible. But let's say you have an egg with toast and a cup of milk, and there's cheese on the egg. The standard American breakfast. This is like the worst food meal you can eat. It doesn't matter if it's a whole wheat organic bread and a locally farm raised egg and all natural milk you got from your farm. It doesn't matter. Those foods are very, very difficult to digest. Eggplant, potatoes, peppers, tomato. So this is what happens if you have a meal that you're combining.
Starches and eggs is basically bread and eggs.
Yeah. So you want to have an egg? Have an egg. Don't mix it with too many other things. Just have your egg. Have an omelet with veggies in it. Vegetable omelet. Cucumber raita. Yeah, tomato raita. Fruit yogurt is not good. You know those chobanis with the fruit mixed in it? No. Not for you guys. Kids, it's okay. Kids have strong Agni. They can handle it. But for you guys, limit it. I'm not saying don't have it. Don't have it every day. Buy plain yogurt and eat yogurt in between meals or have it once at lunch with your grain. Because you may be having this banana milk smoothie every morning and thinking that you're helping yourself. But just by switching the milk to almond milk,
So cucumber and tomato, like if you have salad, you put lemon juice in it.
that, right. Lemon and cucumbers. Okay, you're having a little bit of lemon juice, it's okay. A little like a seasoning type. You don't want to have like a lemonade and then you're mixing it with, or you're juicing cucumber and lemon juice, you know. Because you're, yes. Foods cooked together are okay. Foods cooked together. And that's why a lot of our Indian cooking is that way. Yes. Okay. All right. So what happens if you continue to do food combinations? Gastrointestinal problems. Number one, you're going to start seeing changes in your digestion. It changes the intestinal flora. Why is there such a craze about taking probiotics? Because we lose the natural probiotic in our gut by having these kinds of foods. That's why we need to take probiotics. And the West, they have to, because they're constantly mixing the wrong foods. If you are prone to allergies, you absolutely have to pay attention to food combination. Because what is an allergy? It's your body thinking that there is a toxic element, and it's attacking it.
Even if it's environmental?
Even environmental allergy. Yes. Yes. You have to pay attention to these. And if you have children that suffer from allergies, you should be very cautious. And I have been able to correct allergies just with diet. So here's how to handle food combinations. Again, her point was, let's make this practical. This has to be something we can do. Well, cook foods together, one. Anytime you use that Instant Pot, especially on slow cook mode, you are nourishing your body. And you don't have to worry so much about these different ingredients. Instant Pot is great. Slow cook. Use spices. So spices help our digestion. If you wonder why in Indian cooking they use ginger and cumin and mustard seeds and so many other spices, actually it all stemmed from digestion. Actually, it did not come about for taste. So use the spices. If you know you're going to have one of those meals, then if you can get a hold of a little bit of fresh ginger and slice it up, put a little salt and lemon juice and chew on that ginger prior to your food, it will do wonders on your ability to digest the food properly.
Ginger is okay for Pitta?
All doshas can have ginger. Pitta is in less quantity. Okay. Now, if you are already having weak Agni to the point where the diet is not enough helping you, then I would highly recommend you purchase digestive enzymes. And you just take one before each meal for a couple of weeks, and it will help a lot. These two rules.
Do you have any specific ones to recommend?
Full spectrum digestive enzymes. Again, if you're out, you're traveling, you want to pay close attention to your meals, just a couple of tips that are easy. Eat fruit alone and minimize your dairy. Because if you looked at that last slide, most of it came from dairy and fruit, mixing dairy with other foods, right? So if you want to make sure that you stay strong and healthy, then just cut out your dairy and limit it for that period of time.
It was such a fun, engaging seminar. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.